Welcome back to Late Edition. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. After months of acrimony and warnings about Iran's so-called nuclear weapons threat, a stunning turnaround this week as new U.S. intelligence revealing Iran actually stopped trying to build a nuclear weapon 4 years ago. The Bush administration, though, isn't budging from its bottom-line insistence that Iran still represents a very, very dangerous country. Here with some perspective on what this all means, two guests. Korb is a former Assistant Secretary of Defense. He's now with the Center for American Progress here in Washington. And Danielle Pletka is the Vice President for Defense Policy Studies at the American Enterprise Institute, also here in Washington. Thanks to both of you for coming in. I want to get to all of that in a moment, but first I want to talk about the CIA and the decision to destroy those two videotapes back in 2005, videotapes made in 2002, harsh interrogation techniques involving two al-Qaeda suspects. You've been around Washington for a long time. What do you make of this?
Well, I think this is a new legal and moral low, and I think the problem is going to be not only whether they acted improperly, but it's going to undermine a lot of the cases that government's trying to bring against many of these people, because judges have asked for this, the 9/11 Commission asked for it, some of the trials they've asked for it. So if I'm a defense lawyer, I think I can use this to get some of the convictions thrown out.
Here's the question, though. There's a preliminary Justice Department investigation now underway. Was a crime, in your opinion, committed?
Based on the facts we know, this is a crime. Because
what crime?
The crime of obstruction of justice.
What do you think, Danielle?
I'm not a lawyer, Wolf. I have no idea. I think the thing that troubles me most about this is it sounds like something wrong was done. I don't think we should have much doubt about that. It sounds like a mistake was made. But it does really push further in the direction of forgetting who the bad guys are here. The CIA is a group of Americans. They're working to protect us. Let's not forget that as we talk about this. Let's remember that these guys are doing their absolute best to secure the intelligence, to keep us safe, to be sure there is no next 9/11. And I think that's just an important thing that we need to keep at the top of our minds.
John McCain, who himself was tortured as a POW back during the war in Vietnam, he spoke out when he learned this week, like the rest of us, that those two videotapes of the interrogation were in fact destroyed. And he said this. Listen, Daniel.
I don't think they should have destroyed those tapes, and it will harm the credibility of the CIA, in my view, and I wish they had listened to members of Congress who said they should not do so.
What do you think? Do you agree with him on that?
I can't help but agree with him.
In other words, you agree that the tape should not have been destroyed?
Absolutely not. If someone had asked for them and they were required to be kept, they should have been kept. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that that's the case. I just answered you before and said I don't know whether a crime was committed, because I don't.
The current director of the CIA, General Michael Hayden, who was not the CIA director in 2005 when these tapes were destroyed. Porter Goss, the former congressman, was the CIA director. He justified the decision, though, to destroy the tapes by suggesting that if they had ever been made public, the CIA officers who were involved in the interrogation, they and their families could have been subjected to retaliation by al-Qaeda or other supporters or sympathizers. Do you buy that?
No, I don't, because if, in fact, the courts and the 9/11 Commission had done this, they could have redacted it in such a way that we would not have known who they were. And the interesting thing is Porter Goss was head of the agency. They didn't even tell him. Harriet Miers, who was the White House counsel, told them not to do it. So, I mean, the whole idea that somehow or another this sort of post facto justification just doesn't add up.
You want to just add anything before we move on?
Well, again, I'm not sure that's the reason, but we should take very seriously the idea that these terrorists do, in fact, memorize the names of their interrogators. Down at Guantanamo Bay, each one of our officers and soldiers has to go around with no name patch, because there are folks down there, terrorists down there, who memorize lists of names, smuggle them to the outside, and then threaten the families of these individuals. So let's not make light of that. It may not be a good justification, but let's not make light of it.
All right, well, nobody's making light of it. We're not making light of it. All right, guys, stand by. We're going to talk about the new national intelligence estimate on Iran and its nuclear weapons program, or lack thereof. Much more with Danielle Pletka and Lawrence right after this.